Hi, and welcome to Your Prosperity, a podcast series on financial topics including tax, wealth creation, superannuation, lending, audit, and many other things that we deal with here on a regular basis at Prosperity Advisors. As with all financial podcasts, any advice you hear in this is general in nature and not to be relied upon. Please contact us for any specific advice. Hi, and welcome to the podcast. Today is the 5th of December, 2023, getting close to Christmas. Things are starting to move along. Today I'm here with Rocky Johnston, one of the financial advisors here at Prosperity. Rocky and I work on a lot of clients together. And one thing we've noticed, recently is cost of living is going up. Everyone knows that. Everything's going up. With that, advice and good financial advice isn't necessarily cheap. Good advice is worth it, but it's not cheap. So we've been noticing, the next generation, much like property almost, like in the housing market, there's a disconnect where people don't want to necessarily pay to get advice because it is a little bit, it costs a bit of money to get advice. You've got to pay for it. And if you don't have a big asset balance behind you, it can sort of seem that it's should I be sending money to do that? Should I be spending $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is to, depending on what advice you're getting. And we found, there's a bit of a niche in the market where you can get good advice for the next generation, where it can be scaled advice, and it can be advice that's maybe particular just to the needs of that person, but not the overall picture. It came up recently. Rocky and I were talking to an architect I know who went to get some advice and just wanted to talk about some simple basic level stuff. I think it was insurances. And all of a sudden got an $8,000 proposal, which included super, insurance, investments. All of that stuff's relevant, but at that particular time, maybe not necessary for them. So that's a long-winded way of saying we think there's a little bit of a way to do this where there's advice for that next generation, where they can get good advice, talk about important concepts, and get just the specific advice they need for a significantly cheaper price than it would be, and the rest of that stuff can come later and come in. So a long-winded way of saying it. Rocky, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Brendan. Yeah, good to be here.
Rocky, talk me through. You're a financial planner. You're used to doing full comprehensive advice. Statement of advice is absolutely necessary, and that still happens with this. But talk me through, this advice for the next generation. We're calling it. Who's it targeted at, and how does it work?
Yeah, it's a good question, Brendan. So like you've sort of said, we're pretty passionate about this. We're looking at this next generation, and it's not necessarily next generation as in intergenerational wealth. We're really talking about sort of the 20 to 40-year-olds. So people that are essentially earlier on in their career, or they're just starting out, they've been working a part-time job, they're at uni, or they've just got a bit of cash and they're wanting to do something with it, or see if they're on the right track, buy a house. Yep. It's that kind of age group. And like you said, it's getting more and more expensive every single year. Advice costs are going up, inflation, it's not just keeping the lights on and having our, staff employed and everything like that. It's also, the cost of education for financial advisors. Like, there's been a lot of changes in the industry, sort of post Royal Commission.
We've been fee for service for quite a while, but I think a lot of the cowboys have been sort of pushed out of the industry with these changes. So and we're on the front foot and well ahead of that one.
Exactly. And we see it as a good thing, the changes, and sort of Prosperity are seeing that. We're going from strength to strength. So we're really investing in technology, education, and just, being able to provide the best quality service. And that's why we are where we are. We're essentially trying to meet that need where we're seeing advice costs go, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000+ for an advice fee and implementation and everything like that. And it's just becoming more and more unattainable for, that sort of demographic we were talking about earlier. Like, if you've got $40,000 or $50,000 saved up from your job, and you're looking at buying a house, or, investing or anything like that. If you're paying, a sizable amount of that, 10, 15% of that just in fees.
That's right. If you got $50,000 to invest and it costs you $5,000 to do it, it'd want to be a bloody good investment to recover those sort of costs. And look, those costs are absolutely justifiable on bigger portfolios where there's a lot more work. But I guess that's the problem, isn't it? That The statement of advice that needs to be done is so regulated these days in the financial planning industry because of the previous cowboys that are sort of dropping out of it now. But it's so heavily regulated that the advice you have to give has to be so detailed and documented that, you know, you've got to prepare a detailed statement of advice, and it costs money for that good advice.
Exactly
So
right.
when it's a bigger portfolio, you can afford to do that because the returns you're getting are good and they're making it justifiable. But for 50 grand, you can't spend 5 grand on advice that is going to be putting you 10% behind the 8 ball straight away.
Exactly right. And I guess when we're talking about trusts and self-managed super funds and gearing and all that kind of stuff, it makes sense just to spend that extra amount just to know you're on the right track, because like you said, might be a small part of the portfolio. But there are definitely that demographic out there that it's not complex. They just want to, know they're on the right track or get some financial literacy. Just they haven't been taught this kind of stuff in school. So they want to know, what is a share? Why do we invest? What's diversification? How do the fees work? What's compounding? All those sort of foundational level things that are so important.
Even some of those things, they might think they sort of know what that is, but then you'll have your meeting with them, and I know you go through a lot of that basic stuff in that meeting, which is great. And I think it is, as you say, it's almost an educational piece.
Exactly right.
Maybe we should work out a way to get some CPD points for this and do something.
Exactly right.
So and I guess it's not just investments. It might be super, might be insurance, might be anything like that, where you're, where we're giving that one-off sort of smaller piece advice, but also helping them basically to financial literacy to understand that. And it's not a slight on people, I guess, as you say. You don't learn, you're not taught this stuff. You don't know it until you get involved with it and start looking into it. It'd be like me, I don't go to the GP and pretend I know what I'm doing. I ask them because that's what they've trained to do and they know what they're doing. Same thing when you come to a financial advisor. You might know a little bit about it, and I know I've got a cold. I don't know exactly what I've got, but it's important to get that right advice from someone who knows what they're doing and can help you out with it.
Yeah, exactly right. And I guess we're currently seeing, and we get this feedback quite a bit. So the demographic we're sort of looking at here, if they were to come to a financial advisor and they were like, hey, I've got a little bit of money saved and I just want some, some strategic planning, and I want to put it in the right place that's right for me. And then if I quoted them, an exorbitant fee, they would likely just go, let's look elsewhere. And where are they looking? So they're looking, I guess, friends, online forums like Facebook groups and Reddit. They're looking at, things like robo advice, which these are all really good things. And I guess if you're self-oriented and you're wanting to start learning about that and self-managing yourself, it's a good way to start and get into it. I guess the problem is with these forums and online tools is they don't really take into account your personal needs and objectives like a good financial advisor does. Like we go through all this education and training to get all these strategies and understanding of the laws and everything like that for a reason, and it's so we can talk to people about their goals. So it's if your goal is to buy a house in 12 months, we're probably not looking at putting it all in the share portfolio in the share market. And
we're probably not looking at Bitcoin either.
Yeah, exactly. So it's stuff like that where it is heavily dependent on what you're wanting to achieve, and essentially what a good financial advisor does is they can sit down, go through your goals, and work through a way to get you to those goals in the most efficient way. And unfortunately, you can't really get that kind of level of service from like an online forum or social media or anything like that.
And a lot of that online stuff too, they're boom and bust. Like I joke about Bitcoin. Obviously, it goes up, it goes down, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who've made money out of Bitcoin, but I think there's plenty who've lost as well. And it's one of those things that you might as well go to the track on the weekend and have a punt. It's it's not really solid financial investment. That's just sort of having a crack at something that you think will go up. Whereas what's important for building your wealth is having a solid platform and a strategy, a diversification, all that sort of stuff, and making sure you're doing it the right way that will give you a better chance at better returns. Someone tells you they're getting 20 and 30% returns on something, well, you're probably also a good chance to lose that. Sure, it might work, it might not. That's not what you punt with.
Yeah, exactly right. And like, and I say this quite a bit as well. Like if you're younger and starting out, and you're comfortable investing, 10 or 20 grand at the start, and you can sort of see how volatility starts to work, how shares start, because you don't really fully learn something until you start to do it yourself. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
So if you're starting to invest, you're seeing, something like a COVID event happen where, the market drops, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. There's companies that I'm buying that are, losing profitability, so the share price is reducing, like, or expectations, it's just the way shares work as a whole. If you can do that at 10,000, and that might go up and down slightly, but it's not, I guess, sizable. It's not,
You're not
funding your
freaking out
retirement
when
or
it happens
anything.
when you got 500,000.
Exactly right. So once you've sort of learned, and as your career progresses, you've got more surplus cash flow, you might have purchased that house, and you're coming back to us and you're going, hey guys, I want to invest more, and I've got, 4, 5, 6 grand a month to invest. That becomes a lot easier once you've got, that expertise, because you started when you were younger. And it makes it a lot easier, and you will just naturally be a lot further ahead than a lot of your, I guess, colleagues and people in a similar sort of age group to you, just because you've started earlier. And don't get me started on compounding and everything like that. I'm so passionate about it. Just the massive difference that makes over the long term. It's so important.
Absolutely. And this, I guess, this advice, I know it's scaled advice. It's still a statement of advice. You still go through things. So there's financial literacy sort of components to it. There's a statement of advice given.
Yep.
I think you guys are doing sort of complimentary meetings on this, aren't you, initially? So initial chat just to say, look, this is how it would work, this is what we do, this is what it would look like, this is how much it would cost for you, etc.
Yep.
It's significantly cheaper than, the 8 grand advice that architect was offered for a simple thing that really it's just ridiculous. Everything he was offered is actually fair and reasonable, but just not ready at that point in time.
Not ready at that point.
Build up to that, and let's not just charge everything at the same point. So absolutely understandable. All of that might happen over the next few years, but just not quite yet. Exactly. The statement of advice, super, investments, insurance, cheaper options. So if you're a 25 to 30-year-old, or you're listening to one of our great podcast listeners, and you've got your next generation, your son or daughter might be that, and you're thinking they need to get some good advice, I need to get them in, how do I do that? Can I book a meeting? Can I sort that out? That's the best option, I guess, is to jump onto the Prosperity website.
Prosperity website, or email through to your existing advisor, or contact at Prosperity and just say, hey.
The key words might be, I heard Rocky talking about financial advice for the next generation. I think that's for me. Can I have a chat to someone? Throw in complimentary meeting. I'll hold to that now, Rocky. I've mentioned that on the podcast. So you're going to have that one.
The initial one,
And I guess it is, it's that basic financial literacy. It's just having the first chat. You don't have to go ahead. You might have the chat and go, you know what, it's not for me, but I'd be surprised if they did that. And it's just understanding, well, where are my assets? What have I got? What can I do? What are my options? And it's not, here's a 5-8 grand bill to do it. It's just a fair bit cheaper. So
exactly right. And
I guess it's, as we said at the start, it's like housing, right? It's, geez, where do you start? It's sort of it's getting unattainable sometimes to that next generation. And that's simply because it looks too big and it looks too hard, particularly if you're in Sydney and you're sitting there going, I don't have $2 million. This will be difficult to buy a house. That next step, I guess, is now attainable, which I think is pretty important, Rocky. So
absolutely,
it's great what you guys are doing in that space. So if they want to get in contact with you, Rocky at Prosperity, Johnston at Prosperity is your email, but call your advisor, not just Rocky doing it, guys. Sydney, Newcastle, Brisbane. We get advisors down the East Coast. So happy to have a chat, talk about that next generational stuff, and really help advise the younger guys coming through to, get a bit of financial literacy early on, start building. And look, if you're 40, I'm not saying it's cut off at 35, right?
No, definitely.
If you're ready to go, you want to have your first chat with a financial advisor, this is the platform to do it. And I think it's great what you guys are doing, Rocky. And I think it's really a good little initiative to give people a taste of how it works.
Thanks.
What have I missed, Rocky? What else can they, is that everything they need to come in to talk about?
No, that's everything. Just if this resonates, if you felt like you haven't been able to access it before, or you're not getting the right advice, or you just had some questions, feel free to reach out. I think a good advisor, and it's not just us that do this, like a good advisor is able to tell you in that first meeting if they can help you or not, if you're on the right track, or, if there's something that they can help with. So if you're not sure, reach out, and we're more than happy to chat.
Love it. All right, Rocky, thank you very much. If people want to get in
Brendan.
contact with Rocky, Johnston at prosperity.com.au, or jump on the website, www.prosperity.com.au. And myself, obviously, Brendan, bcampbell at prosperity.com.au. Thank you, everyone, for listening or watching, if you're on the YouTube watching. Appreciate it, Rocky. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers. All right. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
Done. All right. Thanks for joining us for today's podcast. Hopefully you liked it. And if so, please give us a few stars, like and share. And if you'd like to follow the series, please subscribe and pass any information on to your friends as well if you think they might like it. For more information about who we are, head to prosperity.com.au and follow the links.